Welcome to Monique Jordan's channel. Please like, share, and/or subscribe for more videos. Oh, and leave us a comment if you like what you see. Much love.
So sit back, relax, kick your feet up, and most of all enjoy. Much love.
According to the Genesis section of the Bible, it is stated that Ham is an ancestor of Africans. According to Hebrew tradition, he had 4 sons, Cush, Mizraim, Puth, and Kana. Cush is now known as Ethiopia. The Hebrews called it Nuba. Mizraim was Kemet or Egypt, as the Greeks call it. Puth was Puane, now known as Somalia, and Kana or Canaan was on the edge of Palestine, close to the Nile River, and was a very fertile area and rich in many raw materials, and many wars were fought over this piece of land. The Canaanites were therefore descendants of Ham, and everyone agreed that they were of African descent. The word itself, Canaan, describes a purple or mahogany colored person. Canaan was important because when the Asians attacked Africa, they first had to go through Canaan, and conversely, the Africans had to go through Canaan to repel or stop the Asians. Before Abraham came, there was no Hebrew. The correct word is Harabu, which means he who crossed the river. Abraham came from a place called Ur of Chaldea, a remnant of the old Sumerian Empire, the land that was called the people with black heads. Even if Abraham had not been black, his descendants stayed in Africa at Kemet for more than 430 years, where they interbred with the Africans. There were only 77 people who went to Africa, Egypt, with Jacob, and when they left again, there were 3,167,000. The oldest bones that date from about 50 to 70,000 years ago that have been found in Palestine, Canaan, are of African origin. At the time of Abraham's departure from Ur, there were no large numbers of Europeans and Asians in Kemet. They were attacked, but they did not succeed in settling there in large numbers. Abraham left Ur. The Greeks called it Mesopotamia because it was going to be attacked by Indo-Europeans, who when they went to war were completely naked under a black cloak. The first man they killed, they bit in the neck and drank the blood to gain more strength. They had already attacked Chaldea, Ur, 200 years earlier, and Abraham was familiar with the destruction they brought with them. So he knew what they were capable of, and he left Ur. In order to settle in Canaan, he had to go to the empire that had power over Canaan at that time. So, Kemet. He needed permission from the decision makers, not from the pharaoh, because one had to hold a high position if one wanted an audience with the pharaoh. Abraham was not even a tribal chief in 1675 BC. He obtained permission from the authorities, and he leaves for Canaan with his family, about 20 people. He has 2 sons, Isaac and Ishmael. Isaac he has with Sarah, a black woman from Ur, and Ishmael he has with Hagar, a black woman from Kemet. Isaac's son was Jacob. Jacob had 12 sons, who later became the forefathers of the 12 tribes of Israel. All were black people. In the time of Jacob, who was in Palestine, a disaster struck the country. He then left for Kemet with his approximately 77 black relatives. They stayed in the Nile Valley for 430 years, and when they left there were over 3 million. There is no record of them being enslaved. The Egyptians wrote everything down, and even if they didn't, then Persia or India did. In Exodus, it says that they left with 600,000 people. At that time, an average family consisted of 7 people, so it could not have been that number, but a little over 3 million. They were Africans with an African culture, and their leader at that time was Moses around 1200 BCE. Moses was black. In the Bible, Moses is led to a burning bush. Moses hesitates and is told to place his hand on his breast. When he does this and removes his hand from his bosom, his hand is white as snow. However, when he responds to the call of the bush, he places his hand on his chest again, and when he removes his hand is normal again, so black. At that time, there were constant invasions by the lighter-skinned peoples, and they conquered more and more land in the north and drove the black races further south. So there was large-scale mixing, but the Hebrews did not quickly take another people as bride or groom. Their prophets had drawn up strict rules about this. Only at the time the Greeks did the whites come on the scene, however, in small numbers around 300 BC, and they were followed by the Romans around 30 BC, and through racial mixing the peoples there got a light color. Yet the dominant part was black. When Jesus appears on the scene, he comes from the tribe of Judah, of the 12 tribes of Israel. This is the darkest tribe. In order to be elevated to Christ, one had to follow strict rules, and one of them was that you had to come from a pure, unmixed tribe. The word Christ comes from the Indian word Krishna, equals the black one, kissed by the sun. The correct name for Jesus, Greek, is Yeshua, since the letter J did not yet exist in Hebrew. Yeshua equals a redeemer. If you look at the two different birth certificates in Matthew and Luke respectively, and follow his parental line, you will see that he was black, a Hamite from Ham. In the days of Cleopatra II around 30 BCE, when the Romans conquer Kemet, Palestine, Syria, and a few other nations, dominate the black people in the region, they are constantly at war with the Israelites. Many messiahs arose who tried to free their people from the yoke of the Romans, including the well-known Jesus or Yeshua ben Yosef. He wanted to free his people from inequality, save them from their sins. The word sin means not in balance. When someone is a slave to another, the relationship between man and man is out of balance. When he was crucified, it was not because he preached anti-violence or preached a new religion. New religions were no threat to Romans. There were already so many in their empire at that time, and one more made no difference. They arrested him because he had stirred up the crowd by calling himself the King of Israel. The Romans saw this as a revolution because they could only appoint a king to a country. He was crucified for this and for no other reason as mentioned in the Bible. After the death of Yeshua ben Yosef, his movement called the Party of Nazareth continued. It was a united front consisting of his disciples who had the leadership and members of different tribes. The disciples were also persecuted and crucified. Long after this, the struggle for the independence of Israel continues. Then another so-called Jesus stands up among them, namely Yoshua ben Kagbaba. People think that there was only one Jesus, but there were many. In fact, at the time of the Jesus we know, around his 12th year, there was a man named Yoshua ben Judah who led a revolution and was crucified for it. So when Jesus walked home, he had to follow a long road to Nazareth, and along the road there were thousands of crosses with hanged people. At the end hung the cross of Yeshua ben Judah, a son from the tribe of Judah. Jesus, the son of Joseph, experienced this at the age of 12. Then follows Yeshua ben Kagbaba, then Yeshua ben Menachem. Our well-known Jesus was crucified around the year 30. The book by Dr. U.G. Schoonveld tells about this.
Thanks for watching this video. I hope you come back soon. So till the next time, much love.